Hello and welcome to the Oak and Lamb YouTube channel. My name is Becca Oakes. I'm an owner and craft educator here at Oak and Lamb. In today's video, I am going to talk to you about a fun trending project, and that is fabric tumblers. Now, you may be aware of the tumbler trend that is a resin trend with either paint or with glitter. It is a very hot item for crafters to make right now, but one upcoming trend that I'm really loving is crafters are using fabric to cover the tumbler and then cover that with resin to create a really awesome tumbler. I'm really excited to show you this. I, to be honest, was a bit apprehensive to even test this out in the beginning because I thought that placing the fabric on the tumbler would be a really big pain. Getting it smooth and wrinkle free, I thought would be very tedious. However, if you use a tumbler that is not contoured, that is straight and even all the way around, you're not gonna have any problems at all placing the fabric. So I hope you're excited about this project and I can't wait to show you all of the steps. Before we move on, you may be looking at this table thinking there are quite a few supplies for this project, and there are. I don't want to overwhelm you with every single thing all at once. So I'm just going to be talking about what we're going to be using as we use them. So the first thing that you want to do is measure the tumbler that you're going to be using. Now this tumbler will be linked below for you, but it is pretty neat because it is a tumbler. It comes with a tumbler lid that closes, but it also has this lid so that it can be converted for a tall can koozie. So pretty neat. This came from Hobby Lobby. Full price was $11.99 and we got it 50% off. So it's a really great deal. But what we want to do is measure our can. And so what I'm going to do is just use my measuring tape, and it is 9 1/8 inch by 5 7/8 inch. Now, when you are cutting your piece of fabric, you will notice if you cut your fabric at 9 1/8 inch all the way around, by the time you place your fabric and stretch it to get it really nice and smooth, you will have a bit of an overhang. So I like to cut my fabric at 9 inches, and then I want to do around 6 1/4 so that I have a little bit overhang at the top and the bottom. So I'm going to do 9 inches by 6 1/4 inches. So now that I've cut my piece of fabric, I am going to just place the fabric loosely around here just to make sure, again, that my dimensions were correct and that I cut correctly. So that looks great. One other thing that I want to point out, when you are cutting a piece of fabric, especially if it has a fun pattern like this, you definitely want to make sure that you are selecting a portion of the fabric that has a good seam on here. For instance, if I had come over here and cut this part, then I wouldn't have really had any campers. I would have more mountains, which is fine if that's what you're looking for, but just be mindful of the selection of fabric that you're cutting for your tumbler. Now that I have this cut out, I'm ready to add Mod Podge to the tumbler. I'm just using the matte Mod Podge. You can use glossy or whichever one that you have. This just came from the dollar store. That's why it's a small bottle of it. And I am also going to be using a foam brush, foam pouncer, whatever you want to call it, to apply the Mod Podge to this tumbler. So let's grab a piece of poster board so that we can protect our work surface. And then I am going to also grab this foam piece that comes with our tumbler turner so that I can place my dowel rod in it and place the foam inside the tumbler. This will just help me hold this and maneuver it a whole lot easier. So we're just going to put a nice even coat of Mod Podge all the way around our tumbler, and it doesn't have to be super thick, but you definitely want it to be completely covered. Now that I have a coat of the Mod Podge on my tumbler, I'm going to take my piece of fabric and just lay it down here on my surface, and then I'm going to carefully line up the tumbler in the middle this way, but kind of toward the end of my piece of fabric. Now I'll pull it up like this and just smooth it out. And then as I'm rotating, I want to pull. Now, one thing that I thought is that the Mod Podge would be super slick and that once I put pressure on the fabric, it would want to come off the tumbler, but it actually has a really good hold. But if I want to kind of pull the fabric off, I can still do that. It's not so tight and so sticky that it won't come back off. What I want to do is make sure that as I am rolling the tumbler and putting pressure, smoothing this out, that there are no wrinkles and that it is going on straight. So just smooth it out with your hand and pull as you rotate to make sure that the fabric is nice and tight on it. Okay, now that the fabric is on the tumbler and it's nice and smooth, I want to trim off the excess. So where I have this overlap, I want to carefully trim with some scissors, or you can use a true control knife, X-Acto knife, whatever you want to do. If you're unsure of how evenly you can cut this, then grab a straight edge similar to the ruler that we used earlier to cut the fabric. You could place it down like this and then use your true control knife to cut. Or like I said, I'm just going to be using scissors to cut along through there. And then what I want to do is cut my fabric flush around the top and around the bottom. Okay, once you have everything cut and trimmed, don't worry about any like fraying or anything like that. We can take care of that after the next step. What we want to do is go ahead and put another layer of Mod Podge on here. Now, a lot of people will wait 15 to 30 minutes in between so that the first layer of Mod Podge has plenty of time to dry. However, I generally, once I've cut everything, just go and put that second layer to completely coat the fabric, and I haven't had any issues with that. So I don't allow for that dry time that a lot of other people do. So just like we did before, we're going to just put a layer of Mod Podge all the way covering the fabric here. And it looks milky and it looks a little bit scary, but this will dry. Just make sure that everything is good and coated. Once it's completely covered, I like to take my fingers and just on the bottoms and the top, go back like this and just make sure that the Mod Podge is covering really nicely and that any of the fabric that might be stuck up is now down, especially any fraying pieces. But again, once this layer of Mod Podge is dry, we can go back and trim off any frayed pieces. I was pulling off some loose frayed pieces because I don't want them to dry up here. That looks pretty good, but see right here where these frayed pieces are, we'll trim those off either with a true control knife or with some scissors once this layer is dry. So then we're just gonna do the top in the exact same way. And now we're going to let this dry, and you need to wait 15 to 30 minutes if you want to do it naturally. However, I am a very impatient crafter, and so I grab my heat gun and apply heat up here. You don't want to do it too close because you don't want the fabric or the adhesive underneath to bubble up and to peel off. Just far enough away so that there is some heat and some air movement on it, and you're not burning the fabric or making the adhesive come up. You'll know that the Mod Podge is dry by touching it and when it is no longer milky. And when it is dry, then we are now ready to use our resin and put a layer of resin on. Now we are using the J Diction UV resin. We love this because it cures very quickly. We like AB resin, but if you're doing 2 layers of it, it does have to cure overnight. And so it makes the length of your project a whole lot lengthier. So this is just our preference for most resin projects. You will need a mask or respirator when you are working with resin, and you will need a glove, or 2 gloves rather, to protect your hands. Now all I want to do is remove this, and then I'll place it on my tumbler turner, just like this, and then I'll put a layer of resin on this. Really quickly, before I put this coat of resin on, this is the point where you would want to cut off any frayed pieces if you want to do that. And since they are hard, it's really easy to just grab some scissors and cut that off just around the top and the bottom. And then just inspect your tumbler one last time to make sure there are no random pieces of frayed fabric, because you don't want that to be in your layers of resin. Once you're happy with everything, go ahead and put your gloves on and your mask and put your first layer of resin on. Now I like to do a good hearty amount. See how I'm zigzagging back and forth like this? And then I'll take my finger and just start smoothing it out right here on the top, just like this. Then I'll turn my tumbler turner on so that it will rotate and I can add more resin. Continue doing this until the entire tumbler is covered with 1 layer of resin. Now that I have a good coat on my whole tumbler, I like to just let it rotate and use my finger to smooth it out. And then I do want to make sure that there is a good coating at the top. That's why I put my finger like this all the way around. And then I remove any excess resin like this. And then I do it on the bottom as well, just to make sure it's covered on the bottom as well. Once you are happy with your coat of resin on your tumbler, you can grab your UV LED light and apply the light to it. The length of time to cure this really depends on what sorts of lights you're using. Because this light is not on each part of the tumbler the entire time it's spinning, it will take longer. The J Diction says the cure time is right around 5 minutes. But like I said, because the light is only hitting parts of the tumbler at specific times, it will take longer. If it is a nice sunny day, I recommend taking your tumbler turner outside and putting it outside. It will cure a whole lot quicker out there. Okay, after the first layer of resin has cured, we are going to grab a sanding block or a piece of sanding paper, whatever you prefer, that is fine grit, and I'm going to sand any parts of the first layer of resin that might be a little bumpy. Now, I find for me personally, the most needed area for sanding is right here at the seam. So we'll sand that down evenly, and then around the top and the bottom generally needs a little bit of sanding. But I like to just do the whole thing, do a light sanding over the whole thing, and then we'll be ready to put our second and final layer of resin on it. Okay, once you're finished sanding, just go over it with your hands and feel for any imperfections. It should feel very nice and smooth. And then you can just dust it off with your hands or grab a paper towel and some alcohol and clean it off. Either way will be completely fine. Once you have it clean and are ready to put that second coat on, go ahead and stick your tumbler back on your tumbler turner, put your glove and your mask back on, and then apply another coat of resin exactly like you did the first. Okay, and now that we have our second coat of resin on here, we are ready once again to apply our light or turn our light on or take it outside and let this second coat cure as well. Okay, once this is finished curing, this is a finished tumbler. So you can just remove the foam from it. And if for some reason you had some extra resin or something up here that was sticking out, then you could sand that down or just kind of chip it off or remove it however you need to. You'll get, if you're new to resin, you might have that, but you'll get to where it's just second nature and it just comes out pretty perfectly every time. This feels really amazing, and honestly, we have our wheels turning here at Oak and Lamb and are thinking of some fun different things that we can add to fabric tumblers. We do have some members here at Oak and Lamb who also do a little bit of glitter, like they'll do some glitter up here, a piece of fabric, and then some more glitter at the bottom, which looks really cute. And also, I think putting a vinyl decal, like a name or something, on a less busy piece of fabric would be really cute. So there are more things that you can do with these tumblers and fabric than just fabric. However, I'm really impressed with how well these come out and how easy and quick they come together. Now, like I mentioned earlier, you can go ahead and screw this top on to make it the can koozie, or this one for just the tumbler lid. If your lids do not go on well, then you probably have a little bit of excess resin inside here. Again, that's something that you will be able to perfect as you get more familiar with resin, but you will want to remove that so that you can easily put those lids on. But this is ready for use, for selling, for gifting, whatever. And I love this because I have a finished product for under $10, which is amazing. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and that you're excited to try something new in the tumbler world. If you loved this video, then you will like the other content that we have here at Oak and Lamb, and you'll love our membership. Our members here at Oak and Lamb benefit from our entire library of cut files. So if you like to craft with your die cut machine, or you like to sublimate, or have a laser printer like the Glowforge or X tool, then our files are perfect for you. Please use the link below to check out what we are about here at Oak and Lamb, and enjoy the code YouTube, YOUTUBE, for $10 off your first month here at Oak and Lamb. That makes your first month of crafty fun $9.99. If you don't like the subscription, if it's not for you, if the content is not what you were looking for, then you can easily cancel at any time with no penalty. But we think you'll like being a part of the amazing community here at Oak and Lamb. Let us know if you have any questions below, and thanks so much for watching this video.